Good evening, everyone. For the second session today, we have Dr. Chaitanya. She has completed her bachelor's in Ayurveda, and later she has pursued her master's in yoga at S. Vyasa University. She is specialized in yoga for MS since the last 3.5 years, and currently she's doing a research on fatigue, mood swings, and also improving breath volume in MS patients. And here she'll be sharing her experience in treating MS patients through yoga. We welcome you, Dr. Chaitanya.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for the introduction. So, yeah, let me share my screen. Okay. So, am I audible?
Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Soman for such a wonderful session. It was really well explained and well understood. Thank you, doctor. And I would like to thank Dr. Prashant and Ayush Prana for giving me an opportunity. So I request all of you to sit in any comfortable position and take some deep breath. I'll be starting the session with some prayer. So this prayer is towards the prana itself. Pranasedam vase sarvam trivideya pradeshtidam Madeva putram yakshasvam Srischa prajnascha videhina iti. So let's start our session. Today I'll be talking about the pranayama for multiple sclerosis. So we'll be dealing with each pranayama individually and the classical reference of it and modern aspect also. Both of this aspect I'll be dealing here. Mainly I have taken 5 of the pranayama which is explained in the classics. First, let's see what is the word pranayama means. It's a Sanskrit word, of course. And the meaning is pranasya ayama. So prana is nothing but the breath. And ayama, the word means exercise. So you are basically exercising with your breath. So what is the significance or why do we need it? So it is to control your or stabilize your pranic energy in the body. So there is a circulation of prana, just like how we have a blood circulation in the body. So in order to control and regularize this, the pranayama has been done. So when it comes to Ayurveda, we say nasahi shirso dwaram. That means the nose is the pathway towards your head. So by the breath, by controlling and activating your breath, you are activating your nerve system also. That's why the pranayama comes in handy for an MS patient. Let me move on to the next slide. Here I have given a pranic energy flow. This is for you to understand how the pranic energy is flowing through the body and how we are going to balance it with the right and left nostril. Here you can see there is a circle in the right side and in the left side. So that is controlled through the nose, so through our breath. So that is the basic pathway to reach this circle of energy flow.
We can't see the slides.
You can't see the slide?
Yes.
Oh. Well, let me check. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Let me take you through the older slides. This is where we explain the definition. And this is the pranic energy flow chart. Okay. So this is like on the right side and the left side, what I've explained, this is how the pranic energy flow is. Okay. Then we'll look into the benefits of pranayama in MS. So it reduces the anxiety, depression, mood swings, fatigue, and stress. Then what does it improve? It improves your coordination, muscle tone, sleep quality, speech, and concentration. So this is only with respect to MS. It has many other benefits, like it has also the effect on your cardiac system, lungs, your all the glandular system, many other benefits are there, but these are in respect to MS. In the study what we have done in Ayush Prana, we have also found that it has a huge benefit on the lung capacity. So we'll be talking about the study later on. So when it comes to the mental state, the pranayama has a huge effect on your mind also. Chalevadam chale chittam nischale nischalam bhavet. It is a sloga that is explained in the classics. What does it say? Here, the prana is considered as the pranavada. There is the pranavayu inside the body. And in Ayurveda, we say maximum of the neurological diseases are due to vada derangement. So, chale vadam chale chittam. As long as this vada is moving, your mind also keeps moving. And by nishalato, or by attaining the steadiness of this pranavada, or prana energy, you can attain the steadiness in the mind as well. So this is just a classical reference where we can find the relationship of prana and the mind. Then here onwards, I'll be explaining 5 of the classical pranayama individually. So we'll go through 5 of them and I'll explain the meaning and explanation, what is in the textbook and what is in the research side. There are a lot of researchers going with each and every pranayama. So with respect to MS or with respect to the nerve system, what benefits they have found, that aspect will be dealing. First one is the very popular one. I think almost everybody knows Nadi Shuddhi. It's nothing but the alternate nostril breathing. You are breathing by using both the nostrils, simple as it is. So Nadi, what is Nadi? Nadi, I was already talking to you that there is a channel through the prana is flowing. So Nadi is that particular channel. And Shodhana means purification of this channel. So in order to practice this pranayama and attain the best benefit, we have to clear the root first. So that's why we do Nadi Shuddhi as a starting of every pranayama. We are just clearing the blockages. And mainly we have 2 nadis, that is Ida and Pingala. It's in the left and right side. There is a comparison of this principle to the yin and yang principle of Chinese philosophy. So the Ida is your left nostril one, that is very cold in nature, or lunar energy we say. And then Pingala is in the right side, the solar energy, of course, that will be hot in nature. Then what are the benefits of Nadi Shuddhi? So even though it's just done in the breath level, it can increases the body balance and it improves the muscle tone, coordination, and it also have the effect in the digestive level as well. And when it comes to the modern researchers, there has been many research that is done on pranayama. So in a particular research study, they have found that the Nadi Shuddhi, it enhances the parasympathetic nerve system and finally balances both the system. It's quite technical. Let me explain to you in a simple way. So this is a diagram of parasympathetic and sympathetic activity in the body. To put very simply, it's like when you are stressed, what happens? You start sweating, your heart beats faster, and you feel like going to the toilet. You remember the day of your exams, right? So that is what the sympathetic system does to you. Then what does the parasympathetic system does? It reverses the actions. Nowadays, what happened? In older times, we face stress very little. It's like you face an animal or like real danger, your house is in fire. That is called stress. But nowadays, we have stress for everything. Exam, we have stress. Job, we have stress. Family, we have stress. So what happens? Your sympathetic system is more than activated that it should be. So generally, when you come to the pranayama practice, there are chances that your sympathetic system is high and there is a need of calming you down. So that's what I told here. So basically, the Nadi Shuddhi reverses the effect of stress on your body. Whatever effect the stress has given to your body, the parasympathetic system will take it away and make you into a calmer, relaxed stage. So that's why when I say in the modern terms, do your Nadi Shuddhi first. Okay. Then this is the demo of how the Nadi Shuddhi is done. Okay. So I am showing the Nasika Mudra here. These are the two fingers that you need to fold. Then the thumb touches your right nostril. The last two fingers touches your left nostril. So close your right nostril first. Then breathe in through the left. Always make sure you take deep breath. Close the left one. Breathe out to the right. Again, breathing in through the right itself. Close. Breathe out through the left. So this is one round of Nadi Shuddhi. So you can practice like this for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes as per your comfort. Okay. Since it balances, it doesn't cause any negative impact in such a fast manner. Okay. So you can practice it up to 15, 20 minutes as per your comfort. Make sure your spine is straight and legs are in cross-legged pose. Then let's move on to the next one. The second one which I'll explain today is Kapalabhati or frontal brain cleansing. That is the literal word. Kapala is your forehead. Bhati means light or splendor. So Kapalabhati is frontal brain cleansing literally. Then what I would like to remind you is Kapalabhati is not a pranayama. It is a Shodhana Kriya. So you will have a doubt what is Shodhana Kriya, right? So when you go to any Ayurvedic clinic, first what they say, Panchakarma, let's do Panchakarma. Everybody wants Panchakarma, right? Why? It purifies your body. Same way, you are coming to a yoga center. So I also would like you to do some Shodhana Kriya here. That is purification of the Nadi again. So how I would do the Shodhana here? That this is one of the Shat Karma. That means 6 purification therapies have explained in yogic aspect. This is one of the technique and easy to do. There is nothing needed than you yourself. Okay. So, but I have a suggestion here. If you are doing Kapalabhati, first learn it from any instructor, a learned person. Don't just see the YouTube video or just my video and do it. Just learn it directly from anybody. Because it is a purification therapy actually. It's not a simple pranayama technique. So what happens here? Generally, we do take passive exhalation, but here it is passive inhalation and active exhalation. I'll explain that. Let's see the benefit. So since it is a hyperventilation technique, that means you are breathing quite fast, it improves your lung capacity, strengthens the lungs. Then for an MS patient, what's important, it reduces your heaviness, fatigue, and of course, depression. Then for the vision and speech, there are improvements which is found in the patients. So this is the demonstration. If possible, you can sit in the cross-leg pose. Then the flapping of the abdomen is done. You flap the abdomen here. So keep the hand on the abdomen. Yeah. When you exhale, the abdomen goes in. Inhale. This is one stroke. This is like one inhalation, one exhalation. So one stroke. Generally, when you do, there will be more strokes. For an MS patient, I recommend 5 strokes in one hand inhalation, and then you exhale 5 times. You can flap. Don't do more. Know your limits and practice always. Okay. But if you're doing like 5 in one breathing, you can repeat it like 3 times in one time of your pranayama practice. Okay, that's about Kapalabhati. Then Surya Vedana or right nostril breathing. So Surya is the sun. As I told, the sun energy is related to the right nostril. It is the right nostril breathing. So Vedana means the cutting of the cutting. That's the word meaning. So what does the cutting happen? The breath is going through the right nostril and it's crossing and going to the left. That's what Surya Vedana means. So it benefits are like it reduces the tremor, it reduces anxiety, and it reduces the inflammatory process in the brain, and it increases oxygen. So am I audible? Okay, I hope I am. So this is the demonstration of Surya Vedana. So close your left nostril and inhale through the right. Deep inhalation. Keep your spine straight. Left. So it's very simple. You are exhaling through the left. That's all. Next one is Ujjayi Pranayama. So in Ujjayi, what do? We take a deep breath in, and when we are exhaling, we contract the muscles in the throat area and make the exhalation last longer. I'll do the demonstration.
Just one time, make sure I was muted.
That improves your voice, speech. It's like those who have speech difficulty can practice this Ujjayi, and it improves your digestion, and of course it gives a good sleep and reduces the anxiety, and it improves concentration. It is proven in a clinical study that it stimulates your vagal nerve afferents fibers and increase the power of concentration. Those who have hypotension, I don't recommend Ujjayi because Ujjayi is otherwise given in hypertensive people. That means who have higher blood pressure. So it reduces the blood pressure. If you have already low blood pressure, please avoid this. Let's go for the demo. So in Ujjayi, you need not have to sit in any meditative pose. You can do it in any pose. This is the only pranayama which you can practice in any pose, even while walking, sitting, anywhere you can do this. So first we inhale, then put your chin down so that the pressure is created in the throat area. Then we exhale. There will be a hissing kind of sound because of the contraction you are giving around the throat. Okay, this is how Ujjayi is done. Then comes Bhramari. Bhramari is pranayama. It's really important, and because it's really, really beneficial. The best part about Bhramari is you can do it anytime, anyone can do it without any issues, and it has such a wonderful effect on your mind. Later in our webinar session, we'll be dealing with Bhramari separately because of its importance. So now, let me give you a brief about Bhramari. So, what does it do? It reduces the anxiety, mood swings, stress, and it improves the sleep. It strengthens your voice also. So Bhramari is the pranayama wherein which you are using the chanting principle or the principle of sound, because it is related to the sound and breathing. We are combining two principles here, the breathing principle and the principle of sound and production of vibration in the body. Both of these are combined here. So yeah, when it's like where you breathe in, this is a demo, and certain marmas are stimulated. In Ayurveda, we talk about the marma points. So certain marma points are stimulated here. This is a diagram of the marma points. Let's go for the demo first. Yeah. So your head needs to be stimulated. So how does that is done. Head is spherical in shape. It's like a globe. So how to stimulate the entire head? You need to reach to the inner point. How to reach to that inner point? It is by your tongue. We use the tongue to create that vibration. So the tongue is touching the middle of your upper palate. So that is the roof of your mouth and that is your tongue. So it is touching and there you create the vibration. So we have to make the sound that is similar to the honeybee. You might have heard when the honeybee passes you, there is a hissing sound or like, it's like somewhere like M and N in middle. When you say home or home, there is that M sound coming, right? That is the sound you are producing in this particular practice while exhaling. So it's like first inhale deeply. So where to keep your hands? This is the first mama. This is the second at the starting of your eye, sides of your nose. And then the thumb is kept near your earlobe. So you can add this. If you are a beginner, first practice by just keeping the ear closed. Then introduce the mudra. First, you have to practice just by humming or chanting the sound. And when you are able to feel the vibration on all over your head, that is the time where you can introduce the mudra. Make baby steps, okay? Step by steps, you can practice Bhramari. And one more other benefit is when you are a beginner practicing Bhramari, note down the duration of your Bhramari because there will be seconds. Like first inhale and see how much you can exhale, how long you can produce that sound. So that is according to your lung capacity, the sound comes. As your pranayama practice progress, your lung capacity increases, the more duration you can do this practice. So note down and you can assess yourself how far you have reached. So this is the effect on nerve system. So of course, nowadays, if we say this is what is explained classically, people will ask you, okay, what are the proof you have got, doctor? So we have to do the studies and the research in order to prove ourselves. That is the situation which we are in. So this is one of the study in which what they have done is they have asked a group of people to perform Bhramari and they have taken their EEG, sorry, not ECG. EEG is the electroencephalogram, that is the waves that is produced from your brain. So in that, what difference they have noticed, there was increase in gamma waves in EEG of the brain. So you'll ask, what is gamma waves? Of course, that is the wave which is like produced when you are highly concentrated. Like imagine you are in the higher level of meditation or you are intensely focused on something. That time is where the gamma waves are produced. So this wave was produced when people were performing Bhramari. That means that much attention and focus was there in the brain. And also it is produced when you are actively engaged in problem solving, like your brain is very active in the cognitive side. So cognitive side means your capability of the brain to solve things. So that capacity also has been increased. So this is the study what is related to the nerve system of Bhramari. Yes, so from here we are finishing with all the classical pranayama which are relevant for MS patients. Okay, then now I would like to tell a few techniques which can increase your lung capacity, which are not classical, which is developed by Acharyas later on. Then, since it's a pandemic, all wanted to know like how I can improve my lung capacity. It's beneficial in MS patients and others also. So let me take you through that. So how we can improve the lung capacity or the vital capacity? First, do all the pranayama which I have just explained, practice them. The next one, breathing exercises. I'll tell you what are breathing exercise. Then full yogic breathing also I'll explain. Then mild stretches of the body. The stretches is like stretch your upper part of the body mainly for the lung capacity to increase, of course. So upper part means the chest, hands, all this. Give a mild rotation and some in and out movements of the hand and stretch your muscles. Yeah. So counting and breathing. Counting and breathing is one of the breathing exercises. First, what easy way is the 1:2 breathing. What is 1:2 breathing? Very simple. When you inhale, count till 5. And when you exhale, count till 10. So sometimes it may not go till 10. Then don't worry. How much ever you can do that much. With practice, let it come. This you can increase with time. I am just telling 5 as a basic number. You can see how much till how much number your inhalation goes and just double the exhalation. Why it is done? Why we need to double the exhalation is because when you breathe out, there is some residual volume, like there is some oxygen that is still remaining in your lungs. So that has to go out. Whatever air remaining in the other lobes of your lungs, let it go out. For that, we breathe more. We just put little pressure and breathe out. So that's what we do in 1:2 breathing. And one more is there, that is 1:1:1 breathing. Nothing more. We are introducing holding of the breath here. That is the only difference. So rather than just inhaling and exhaling, in between, we are trying to hold the breath for some time in order to train our lungs. So 1:1:1 is 5 inhalation, or how much ever count you got for the inhalation, keep that. Then the same count, hold your breath. Then same count, exhale and release the breath. So practice this. When you are counting, you will also have an idea about your vital capacity. That can be done at the beginning of your pranayama. It's an exercise, right? So before starting your pranayama, just do this so that the lungs are ready for pranayama. Then let's go for full yogic breathing. Full yogic breathing comes with sectional breathing, and it is done to stimulate all the lobes of your lungs. So if there are 3 lobes, so usually when we breathe, we use only the middle lobe because we expand only our chest. That's how we breathe generally. But to avoid this, to make the oxygen reach every part of your lungs, we do this full yogic breathing. So it increases the lung capacity and it helps more oxygen to reach your blood. This is how we do. First is abdominal breathing, then chest, then clavicular. I'll explain this. Let's go through the demo. Okay. So this, if you have like difficulty in sitting, you can lay down also, no problem. First is the abdomen. Okay, so keep your hand on your abdomen so that you will know whether you are stretching your abdomen or not. So in the beginning, it may be some difficult, but it will come in handy soon. Okay. So keep your hand, just push your hand with the stomach. So inhale deeply, always breathe as much as you can. Push your hand. Exhale, let it go in as much as you can. So in the beginning stages, use your hand. Just push your hand with your tummy. Simple as it is. So here you can see that abdomen, but the tummy is going in and coming out. Then go for the chest. Expand your chest as much as you can. Contract it. Repeat it. Each can be done 5 times, 5 times, 5 times. Then slowly you can increase up to 10. This is the chest breathing. So inhale and expand your chest. Exhale, let it go down. Then clavicular breathing is nothing but the collarbone. You can see, right? That area you have a bone. So this is a bit tricky one. In the beginning, if you are not getting, don't force yourself. Just go with abdominal and chest. Later after 2 weeks, try for the clavicle one or the collarbone one. Imagine that the air is going towards the sides. So this is where full yogic breathing is done. That means first feel your abdomen, then the chest, then the clavicle. 3 parts we are trying to fill here. Okay? Abdomen, chest, yeah. So don't directly go for full yogic breathing. First go with section. If you are new, do only abdomen. Then later introduce chest, then the clavicle. So go step by step. So that's all about the pranayama. Now, I would like to share some of the research finding we had. So in the research, what I'm currently doing, what we did is we did yoga as a complementary therapy. All the participants were taking Ayurveda from Ayush Prana. Then for them, we have given them regularly yoga. Then certain findings I would like to share. The study is still going on, but in the intermediate study result, I would like to share here. So first, since this is pandemic time, all of the participants, most of them were having the oximeter. So what we did is ask them to check their oxygen level before the pranayama practice and then after. I can tell you there was not even a single person whose oxygen level didn't increase. Everybody had an increase in the oxygen level and few of them could reach to 100. So if personally, if I'm telling, I was teaching pranayama twice a day, morning and evening. So I had to do it every day. So whenever I checked my oxygen level, it was always coming 100. So it was something new even for us. So this means certainly pranayama can improve your oxygen in the blood, thereby a lot of symptoms in MS can go away. This is where we have studied the quality of sleep, how good they could improve. 60% of them had a good improvement in the sleep. 10% didn't show any changes. Then the remaining had milder changes in the sleep, but it actually gave them a good benefit. Most of them could sleep better. The quality in the sleep was increased in a good way. So that's all about the study. Thank you for listening. That's all we are sharing today. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, doctor. So we have a few questions. While doing pranayama, why is it important to use the fingers and close the nose? I think they mean the mudras. Why are the mudras important?
It means in Nadi Shuddhi what we are using. See, basically it's like if you want to close one nostril, you have to use the mudra. But if you cannot use the mudra, no problem. There are certain people who couldn't use. So in them, what we say is you can use both the hands. No need to like definitely go for the mudra. You can use both the hands and do the breathing. Just close the nostril. That is the only aim in Nadi Shuddhi.
How long can Kapalabhati be done?
For MS patient, it individually varies, but the safer one is in one breathing, 5 strokes, like that, maximum 3 or 4.
Is it
If
safe
the
to
person
do?
is practicing, if a person is like a practitioner of yoga, can do little more, but much more is not advised.
Are we supposed to do Kapalbhati?
Yes, you can do it in the way we have explained. It can be done. It has showed good results. It can be done, but make sure you learn it from somebody who is a professional.
Chandra Bedana, is it not good or is it not recommended in MS?
Chandra Bedana can be done, but it doesn't have like, direct relation with the nerve system. That's why I did not include it. Chandra Bedana can also be done, no problem. When we do Surya Bedana, Chandra Bedana also is taught. It's not as specific for MS.
For trigeminal pain, which pranayama is good?
I need some more details of the patient actually. Then they can do Nadi Shuddhi, and like not particular pranayama is not really studied for trigeminal pain.
Should we do pranayama without drinking water in the morning?
Water they can take. It's better to do in the pranayama in the early morning where good amount of ventilation is there. You can breathe comfortably, not in a closed room, in an open space. Then you can take water, no problem. In between also, if you need water, you can take a break, drink some water, and then do your exercise.
What pranayama is good for dizziness or vertigo?
Vertigo alone, we cannot treat with pranayama. They have to take other medications, not just pranayama won't help.
Is there any particular sequence to do the pranayama?
Yes, as I was explaining in the session, first to go with Nadi Shuddhi and then Kapalabhati, because these are the purification way. Then single nostril breathing can be done, then all other. The basic is how you start. Nadi Shuddhi and single nostril breathing. And before that, the breathing exercise can be done. It's better if you do some warm-up and then sit for pranayama than just directly starting it. If you are practicing Surya Namaskara or something, I'll recommend to do minimum 3 rounds of Surya Namaskara and then to do the pranayama so that your body is already ready and a bit of stretching is done.
Okay. Kapalbhati should be done very forcefully or slowly while breathing out.
No, do not exert yourself because MS patients tend to get tired very fast. So they're not supposed to do it very forcefully. You do it with a medium force. Much pain should not be created in the abdomen.
In Brahmari, what is the name of the two marmas of upper lip and lower lip, which was shown in the diagram?
The diagram, the Fana and Sringadaga.
Should we do bandhas for Kapalbhati?
No. Bandhas we don't recommend in MS patients. No. Only in Ujjayi we go for Jalandhara Bandha. Then for MS, I don't recommend bandhas. There is Mula Bandha also, but not really recommended because it increases the pressure.
Okay. If we can't sit for longer to do pranayam, can we do it lying down?
Then lying down is best if your spine is in the erect position. So if you can sit with back support, try to do that. Only the full yogic breathing, which I showed in the end, I recommend in the laying down. If you are laying down, it will be difficult to focus. Awareness is really important when you are practicing.
Fast super fast.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
How much gap should be there between the intake of food and performing pranayama?
Better to do in empty stomach. If you are taken food, give 2 hours gap. Depends on your digestion. Basically, it's like have an empty stomach. If something food is there in the stomach, don't do it.
Any specific pranayama to be done at night?
Brahmari is very good at the night. Then we have chanting practices also. I did not mention it here, but if you have a god that you worship or any kind of mantras, then you can chant that. Even chanting is a part of yoga only. So that and Brahmari is very good.
Doesn't Kapalbhati increase heat? How many do you say we should do?
How?
How many Kapalbhati cycles to be done? Does it increase heat?
Yes, it increases the circulation, right? So what you can do is one inhalation deeply, and when you flap or exhale, go for 5. Then again 1 more. Like that 3 times to do in single stretch. After that, give a break, do some of the other practice.
3 rounds, 30 to 60 counts. Is that okay?
3
rounds, 30 to 60 counts. Is that okay? Is it with, can Mr. Chand please be clear if it is, you're referring to Kapalbhati or Bhastrika?
I was explaining.
Kapalbhati. Kapalbhati, yes.
No, we don't recommend that much because it can in turn have some issues in the body. So don't do that much stretch. Because and for a normal person we give it, but not for a person with neurological problem. It's not done that much. It's recommended.
Can we do Kapalbhati in Vajrasana?
Yes.
Any specific pranayama for optic neuritis?
Optic neuritis. Yes, Kapalabhati in a milder form you can do. It stimulates all the sense organs, but make sure you are in the limits. Then along with that, do Brahmari.
Any comments on Bhastrika pranayama? Is it energy consuming?
1 second. You can also do, there is a technique of Tradagaf to improve vision. You can read it about it. It is mainly for the visual vision and optic nerve. It's not mentioned here. Yeah, then Bhastrika, yes, it is advisable. It increases the oxygen supply towards the lens. So Bhastrika can be done, no problem. Yeah, it can be done, no issues.
Any specific pranayam for urine control?
Nadi Shuddhi, as I told, it increases the parasympathetic nerve system, so that can be done. Then there are asanas more for the urinary issues than pranayama.
How to control hand tremor and head tremor? Any specific pranayama?
Than the one which I explained, there is nothing else.
Okay. I think that's about it. Lot of people say Surya Namaskar to be done after pranayama to get best results. Is it true?
See, why I have told you to do the Surya Namaskar is just as a stimulatory process or a warm-up exercise. Instead of that, there are like many other mind exercises, many other things are there. So even if you don't know any of this warm-up exercise, then to do Surya Namaskara first. Because when you gets up in the morning, your nose will be, or that phlegm in the nose and all will be there. So your body should reach normal in order for the pranayama to act best. That's why if nothing you know, then to do as a warm-up exercise. Here, Surya Namaskara is meant as a warm-up exercise only.
In case of optic neuritis, do you recommend to avoid intense practice like Ashtanga Yoga?
depends on the practitioner, how much Hatha Yoga practitioner that person is. Ashtanga Yoga is like more based on the physical exercise or physical asanas. So there is no study available which says no. But only thing is it's for generally for MS patients yourself. If you are going for any Ashtanga Yoga, each of your practice so much and that breathlessness is not coming. After each and do sit or stand and relax for some time and then do the next one. Make sure you don't agitate yourself.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. So now I would like to invite Dr. Prashant for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Soman and Dr. Chaitanya, for your valuable suggestion and lessons. Dr. Soman has explained about the mind and its relation to multiple sclerosis and to other diseases in the most simplest way because of his 40 years of experience and knowing the human mind. So he explained in such a way that it is related to all of us. So it gives a lot of introspection and a lot of questions. Thank you, Dr. Soman. And Dr. Chaitanya.
तू तोपर्यंत प्रश्न टाक तू तरी सुद्धा. Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Chaitanya, that she had explained pranayama in her 3.5 years of experience, how it is helpful in different multiple sclerosis symptoms. And so that the patients can select which pranayama is suitable for their symptoms. And her study is also commendable. And I wish her all the best in her future research studies on yoga. And thank you, both of them. And thanks all of you for attending the second day of the seminars related to World Multiple Sclerosis Day. And tomorrow's sessions will be on the herbs that crosses the blood-brain barrier. This is such an important knowledge what we are going to share here, how the rishis of 3,000 years ago, they understand herbs that can cross blood-brain barrier. Out of thousands of herbs, how they have selected those herbs that can cross the blood-brain barrier and heal the brain. So we invite you all for the tomorrow's seminar. Thank you very much.
Hello, Dr. Prashant. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Can I? Dr. Prashant, yesterday we attended the whole program and we were impressed. Hello. Can I ask a question? Hello. I'm Dr. Bhide. My wife is an anesthetist. We are worried about. Hello.
Yeah, we are listening.
You are listening, huh? See, yesterday you were talking about the vaccine. It was a very short way we heard. Now, being a medico, she wants to take the vaccine, and you mentioned something about transdermalitis in the case of Covishield vaccination. That's what we want to know from you.
Yeah, that I heard from a doctor who is also a multiple sclerosis patient. So he was exchanging that knowledge, that information with me. Yeah. So that's it. That's all what
How much number he has shared with you? What is the number of transdermalitis patients in Covishield vaccination? Has he?
40.
14?
No, 40.
40. But that is all over India or in the particular area?
That particulars I don't know.
Acha,
so
okay.
Just I got this information.
Any other neuroinflammatory side effect?
Yeah, please
have
we
you come
can share
across?
that. You can you can call on my number or our
right.
office number, and then we will talk.
Okay, no issue, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.